Good morning. For the purpose of the interview, please could you introduce yourself and your role for this interview, please?
Good morning. My name is Malcolm Noonan and I am a Green Party Senator in the Irish Parliament.
Do you find challenging managing expectations of academics? You know, they spend 10 plus years engaging in a piece of research to inform your policy and then suddenly it gets shelved. You know, how do you manage that as a relationship?
Yeah, there's no doubt we've had instances where that has happened, and it's on a personal level because you get to work closely with people, with researchers. It must be incredibly frustrating. It must be feel like you're banging your head against the wall sometimes because you're dealing with people who have a political lens, and that political lens sometimes is short term, and that perhaps requires the state or the civil service to be able to embed a system where there's longer term thinking. I'm not saying take it out of the political realm, but give us, the politicians, the opportunity to be able to speak to something that is much longer term, if that makes sense.
Do you think there is an inflexibility within the Irish system to adapt to research as it develops?
I think it's slow to respond. It sometimes takes, there's a lag time there, and it could be up to a decade by the time the state responds adequately to what are very significant changing trends. The state needs to be nimble in its ability to respond to changing trends. It's that element of research that should be in a better place for the state, and I mean the civil service, and ultimately us in politics, to respond in a much more nimble fashion and adapt and change as needed.
And that's interesting. So on the kind of sort of reverse end of that story, how would you advise the academic sector to respond when, you know, suddenly policymakers do decide to take that research on 10 years down the line? And if research has changed over time, how do you bring in that adaptivity of evidence?
I feel confident in the Irish state that we have a really good civil service that is responding. I find the challenge goes back to a political one where we are locked into political cycles and locked into a thinking that is based on the next election and the next election. So it's very important, I think, that given the dramatic changes that are taking place at pace now, almost on a, very, very rapidly, that we as a state need to be investing more in research, investing more and taking on board that research and ensuring that policies, legislation, etc., adapt. And there are many cases where that does happen, but not always.
Minister Noonan, thank you for your time.